What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Fiery Fridays. This episode is coming out a little bit late as we are recording on Friday. The NBA Finals started this morning, so we got to watch it before the episode begun. So we're not making terrible takes. We've seen game one. Bailey, how have you been?
Yeah, pretty good. Glad the Heat won in 7. I think last week I was speaking about them getting it done in 5. Then it went 6. Probably should have won the game, but I'm glad they got it done in 7. I think they really deserved it. And I think they should have, like I said, should have got the job done in game 6. And then, they really dug deep in game 7.
Denver obviously pulled the win out today, 104-93. It kind of leads into our first question of the week. What is your finals predictions? We have obviously seen game one. How many games do you think it's going to go and why?
I think it's going to be 4-1. I think the Heat will get. I don't think Denver haven't lost a post-game season. So I was confident coming into this that they will not lose one no matter what. So I had them winning no matter what. I think they'll win the first 2, and then Heat have to jag the third or the fourth. And then I think it's back to Denver. And then I think the Heat, Nuggets will win again. So I was more inclined. I think it's going to, be 4-1, but I would be more inclined to think that it would be 4-0 than 4-2. I'd be surprised if the Heat got 2 games on them.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be as surprised if the Nuggets swept them. But I think the Heat have to get one in there. Jimmy and the crew are good enough just to get one on this team. They're not, a super team or anything. And why? Pretty much just because I think they're a lot better. I think they're Aaron Gordon really gave them some mismatch, whatever the word is there. Mismatch problems. Yeah, exactly. And he was just going straight at the rim, hard, putting the ball in the hoop. And they can't. I think the Celtics really didn't capitalize on that because Jaylen Brown had a lot of mismatches, I thought, and he would more try to dribble past them. And they did a really good job of putting it in his left hand, and he kept fumbling the ball. Where Aaron Gordon, he's kind of just maybe a little bit. He's definitely bigger, I'd say, but he's just a lot more, back to the basket, put it up, real athletic, puts it in. So I don't think it's going to be that interesting of a series. But yeah, I think Denver in 5, if not 4.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I'm going to say Denver in 5, but I would lean towards more Denver in 6, I think, rather than a sweep. I think the Heat deserve my respect. I doubted them against Philly. I doubted them against the Knicks. Sorry, not Philly. I doubted them against the Bucks. I doubted them against the Knicks. I doubted them against Boston. And I think Nuggets aren't the hardest opponent they've versed. I mean, people were picking Boston to win the chip over the Nuggets before the postseason started. People were picking Celtics to beat the chip before the Nuggets, before the postseason started. So Nuggets aren't the best team they have played so far. So obviously matchups are different with different teams, but Bam played very well today. I thought he played his best game of the postseason so far. So with Jokic on him, obviously, the Eric Spoelstra is going to make some, rotations to kind of give Bam the ball a little bit more. I didn't think Jimmy played great, only with 6 field goals made. Obviously, Strus didn't perform, but that's what you get with shooters. They're going to be off some nights. Tyler Hero is looking to come back game 3. Hopefully that affects him in a good way. Obviously, he puts up 20 a game. He is their 3rd leading scorer, but, he needs the ball a lot. And does that mess up the sort of momentum you've got going? Who knows? But at the end of the day, he is firepower. And if you go down 2-0, what does it hurt to add Tyler Hero? But if you get the next one, do you kind of immediately bring him back? What do you reckon?
Yeah, you bring him back. He's good enough. I'm sure he would have helped when did he get injured? Against the Bucks?
I actually don't think he's played a game.
I think he played the first game,
Did he?
maybe, or
And got
second
injured
game.
straight away. Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah.
He played game 1 of the Bucks.
Bring him back. I reckon he would have helped majorly. He's almost like, credit to the Heat guys. They're very good at, you just look at most time you check the stat sheet and it's like, Jimmy might have 25 and then it's just a bunch of 15s, 14s, 12s. They're very good at that. You add in Tyler Hero is, a consistent 20-point per game scorer. You got to add him in no matter what. Like, he'll cause mismatch problems for the Denver Nuggets, who I think have played really good defense in this postseason, but are definitely not the most efficient defensive team, probably on ball. They're just a very good team. But if you break it down into individual defenders, there's definitely, there could be some problems there. And yeah, like you said, the Heat, they played pretty bad today, I thought, and still were only, but they lose by 11.
11.
I looked, the fourth quarter,
It
they
was within
scored
8 and 10 in the fourth as well, so it wasn't a blowout.
they scored an extra 10 points in the Nuggets in the fourth.
Yeah.
And I think they had an extra 4 than them in the third. It shows you, they're very good at, coming back late. And maybe, if Strus hits a few threes, I know a lot of buts and what ifs, but he's never going 0-9 again, you'd think, in this postseason.
Sure.
And Caleb Martin's probably not scoring 3 again. He's probably gone for more. So, yeah, I think you could argue the Heat are right up to this. And it wouldn't shock me if they somehow pull this off. Like, I'd rather the Heat win, just because I think the story's great. But when it comes down to it, and you got to think, logically, I think the Nuggets are going to be too good.
Yeah.
If Hero comes back, becomes probably more 4-2, I reckon.
Yeah. The Heat went with Hayward Highsmith, gave him 23 minutes today. They gave Duncan 21 minutes. They had Zeller get 8 to 10 minutes. Lowry had 26 minutes off the bench, but they didn't play Kevin Love. And I thought there was a few games, I think against Boston, the first few maybe, against the Knicks even as well, where he started, where he was a big piece for them, and now he's not playing at all. Do you bring Kevin Love back? I'm not sure, but I think Heat definitely have it. I think Hero needs to come back, and I wouldn't count him out. That's for sure. But if I had to put my money on it, I'd go Denver in 5.
Yeah, I think Kevin Love will do a good job.
Heat will get one of them at home, I reckon.
Kevin Love will do a better job on Aaron Gordon. Not so much that he's a better defender than Caleb Martin, but he's a bit bigger. There's actually there was someone posted a Kevin Love highlight reel from back in the day, and he's declined very quickly. Like, I don't know. I think he would suit going against these Nuggets. I wouldn't be surprised if Spolstra puts him straight back in the lineup. I don't think he was good against Celtics. Didn't really match up that well, but you look at this team and I would not be surprised if he goes back in, but I don't know. He doesn't really look like he kind of wants to be out there that much anymore, but yeah, we'll see how things go. He's another one who I would put back in the team.
For sure. We'll move on to question 2. It's still regarding this series. Who's going to be the biggest X factor that can help a team win on each side? I'll start with mine. For the Heat, I think it's going to be Caleb Martin. Coming off his big game 7. I think if he performs like he did in that game, even there was a couple games, I think he had 21, 24, 19, 15, 14. If he can step up and be, that spark plug for them, even when Hero comes back, it's just something else the Nuggets have to worry about. He's rebounding pretty well. He defends all right. So it's hard when they're playing him at the 4, but I think he can be a real X factor for them, definitely help them win. And on the Nuggets, I think it's Bruce Brown, quite obviously. Bruce Brown's been very underrated this playoffs. He had 10 off the bench today in 20 minutes. He had his 5 boards, a steal, 2 assists. I think there was one game last series where he had 20-something points. He's been great for them defensively off the bench. I thought he guarded Kevin Durant pretty well, to some extent. Didn't let KD put the KD effect on the series. So I'm going to go Bruce Brown and Caleb Martin.
All right, yeah. Well, I think obviously the X factor is if he comes back, it's got to be Tyler Hero. But yeah, who knows? I suppose that's just the big X factor on the series. It just changes everything up. Because other than that, I think the Heat are very good, solid just overall. They're very good across the board teams. I don't think there's anyone who's a major X factor for them. They're all just, very solid. But then, yeah, Tyler Hero is probably always an X factor. He's a guy who can go for, 30 points and have, 5 threes some nights. But he's also a guy who can go for, 4 points and have horrible shooting performances. So I think he's definitely the X factor for them. And I think even for the Nuggets, it showed today, Aaron Gordon, bit of an X factor, just causes major matchup issues for the Heat, who like to go a bit smaller. But you can't do that against a, athletic power forward, who's, quite a built guy. So yeah, he's definitely the X factor for them because you could throw the ball in him and you could be having him put up 20 points per game, I reckon, every game if you wanted to, until they make some kind of adjustments. So nothing really major for me with X factors, but yeah, they're probably the two.
Yeah. Move on to question three. We'll move away from the finals. We'll head over to the Toronto Raptors. Bit of an interesting team. Obviously, they sat just outside. They made the plan but got eliminated by Chicago in the 9th and 10th spot. So they didn't make the playoffs. They've got quite a interesting roster. They got Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, Gary Trent. They acquired Jakob from the Spurs mid-season, and they've got Freddie V. Quite a decent team on paper, but obviously out of that playoff contention. They've had this team for quite some time now, and there is rumors swelling around the league that they're going to make some big changes this offseason. Who out of the team needs to go, in your opinion? If you had to pick one, if you're the GM, who are you trading? You get one choice.
Well, I think first of all, I don't know why they got rid of Nick Nurse. I don't know. I'm a big fan this coach. It just doesn't make sense to me what you expected him to do with the roster. Like, where did you expect him to get to? Maybe make the play in. Then Chicago got eliminated by the Heat, didn't they? Next game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. I don't think they beat the Heat anyway. If you put them in the playoffs, they wouldn't get past the first round, in my opinion. So maybe it's more of a we want like a young kind of coach to build instead of but like it just doesn't make sense to me. I think Philly have done a great job picking him up. They're automatically, go on my radar for next season now that they've got him. I think he'll do a better job than Doc Rivers was. Just kind of repeating the same thing over and over. They've done well there. As for the players, I mean, you've got a young center, you've got a young small forward. Do you look at maybe moving Pascal Siakam? Probably the guy who I think's maybe coming up to 26, 27, coming up to the prime of his career. I think you could move him for some value, get some picks. You got to rebuild. There's no point of having him on the team when you've got Scotty Barnes there too. I know they're similar but different kind of players. But you've got, Pascal Siakam coming into his prime, who's, probably looking to compete at a higher level than they want to be. They've sacked their championship coach. So yeah, they'd probably move him out, get some picks, get some young players in. And, over the next few years, you're probably looking to rebuild at that. I don't think there's many others you want to move. You don't want to move Jakob. You probably don't want to move Scotty Barnes. Maybe Van Fleet's the only other one you could possibly move. But yeah, Siakam for me, I think he just doesn't really need to be there right now. He doesn't help him. Well, he does help him, sorry, but he helps him probably in a negative way if they go on for, draft picks.
I'm going to go. I reckon they move their new young piece in Scotty Barnes. I just don't think it's a tough one, but I'm not a huge fan of his play style. I don't know where he fits on this roster. I think Freddie VanVleet is a great point guard. He's proven it. He won a chip with Kawhi. So did Pascal. OG Anunoby is another one that's been huge in rumors and trade talks, but he's the key to their defense, and I don't think he is the answer to move. They've got the 13th pick in this draft. I think you can get a lot of there's a lot of big men on the draft board. They've just got Jakob, who can they put Jakob at the 5, Pascal at the 4, and then Scotty Barnes isn't really a 3. It's a bit of an awkward fit. So OG moves to the 3, and there's a lot of guards they can take at 13. I like Nick Smith. A lot of potential, risky pick, but I think he's a more coordinated Bones Highland. You got Keontae George from Baylor. Love that pick. If the Wizards could take him at 8, I'm cheering for that one. But there's a lot of people the Raptors can take there. And I like, they've obviously still got Will Barton. They've got Otto Porter. They've got Gary Trent. So there's guys like that they've got off the bench. And then they've got the backup bigs. They've got their new pick in Koloko. They've got Precious. They've got Chris Boucher. So they've got a decent squad. And if they get a nice coach and they get a decent pick, I think they can be a dark horse threat in the East, I'd say, especially with Pascal playing all-star basketball. So I would say Scotty Barnes, in my opinion. But if you're looking at the long run and you want to break it up, I'd probably take your approach and move Siakam. Fred
They
Van Vliet, Fred Van Vliet, I've seen some videos and stuff online where they kind of break down and get into the deep stats about how he's one of the most inefficient players in the game
mm,
right now. But yeah, I don't know. My
they
pick would be Scotty Barnes.
they could probably add someone really high caliber because you look at there's a bunch of long power forwards and small forwards, who could probably move to all the way shooting guard through to power forward there, which you want in the playoffs. If they were to add someone at a really high caliber, maybe one or two players, then I think they're right in this. They need a, I don't know how much salary cap. I'm sure they've got a bit. You wouldn't think there's too much there. You probably have to get rid of Van Vliet. Um, but you could add if you could add two, all stars to that team, then I think they're right up title contention. They might not be the best regular season team, but when you go into the playoffs and you just have people who can sit out and play defense, rebound, run the floor, get those scrappy baskets, um, then I think they'd be right in title conversations. But the chances of two All Stars going to Toronto is too slim. But yeah,
Yeah.
I can see what you mean by moving Scotty as well.
I
I
feel
just
like you
think,
get more for Scotty than you would for Pascal, and then you
mm,
keep Pascal, who I think uh, right now will be better than Scotty will be ever. That's a big call. I just don't see the
no, I
roof being
probably
that high for
agree.
Scotty Barnes. I hope it backfires and he, outdoes my expectations. But I think you can get way more for Scotty right now, and I think in the future when you look back on it, it's going to look like an Oladipo for Sabonis trade, where you
Yeah,
get, you know, he declines a little bit and you got a lot for him, and it kind of builds. So I don't know. I would approach the Scotty Barnes take, but it doesn't look like they're going that way. It looks like they're going to try and move OG Anunoby, and
yeah,
potentially
keep him.
Siakam or Fred VanVleet. So
I'd be
we'll see
keeping OG.
for sure. Um, what teams do you think need to make the biggest moves on draft night? Draft night is exactly 3 weeks from now. Um, it's in about 22 or 23 days, 21 days. And there's a few teams, if you look at the draft board, that are in some uh, tough spots where the picks won't really, fit what they need at the moment. And there will be teams outside of the lottery that might want to trade up and restart. So what team do you think that Adam Silver needs to call out that there's been a trade to be announced when he comes
The
up to the
best
podium?
thing. It's the best
Yeah,
thing to
it is a
hear.
good thing when you're watching the draft.
Um,
What team do you think you want to hear the most?
I think the obvious one's Portland, but I think we spoke on that last week, so I'm going to stick with Dallas. I
Okay.
think pretty sure Kyrie's back for another year on contract. Correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, he's got to be moved. Don't care what for, trade up in the draft, do whatever. You could almost, I know he's a superstar player when he's at his best, but if I'm Dallas, I'm almost taking whatever I can, whether it's moving up the draft board, whether it's, gaining two solid wing players, for play in the playoffs. You just want 3-and-D guys around Luka. It's key. Um, I know, I know that on paper it looks so good having Kyrie and Luka, but it's never going to work. So whatever they have to do, don't care what it is, just get something for him.
Yeah. The biggest one that I would like to see that I've seen thrown around a little bit is the second pick. And I've heard that the San Antonio GM wants to pair Scoot with Wembanyama. So they might offer Charlotte or Portland, depending if Charlotte take Brennan Miller. They might offer them Keldon and Vassell. So
Right.
you get two young small forward and shooting guards that can both start on your team, who are guaranteed great players, for the second or third pick, which is a risk. And I
I
think
don't
if
know
you're,
why you would
I
do
think if
that.
you're, I think if you're Portland, you might look at that and think, maybe
Mm,
um, you get Vassell and you get Keldon Johnson, and you just don't worry about Scoot since you got Lillard already, and you try and sign a big free agent.
mm,
It's not a bad trade that they'd get. Maybe they get some more future picks out of it. Maybe they get a few bench players. Who knows? Another one I'd like to see um, is the Clippers. Now, I think the Clippers, they've had a few rough years. Obviously, injuries have bitten them. Um, and they've taken a bit of a fall every postseason when people aren't playing. But I think that Portland pick, I think they're looking at it a little bit. If they can sort of land Brandon Miller, if Scoot goes second to Charlotte and they have the chance to take Brandon Miller, I mean, do they offer Paul George to go play with Dame? And they get, you get Nazir Little, you get Nurkic, you get a starting center, you get Nazir Little off the bench, and you go get your Brandon Miller, who's a young guy. You'll have him for the future. He's defensive. He's a lengthy three. You pair him with Kawhi. You've still got Russ. You've got Bones off the bench, and you've got Norman Powell. And maybe you get a few second rounds out of it. I don't think that's that bad. Paul George hasn't been performing. He's not there in the postseason. Do you want to take that risk? What happens if they don't play next season? I don't know. What happens if he moves? You get him for nothing. So do you take a chance and take a potential number one pick in any other year in Brendan Miller if Wemby's not there? It's a big question mark. So I wouldn't mind if the Clippers, pop up and come and get one of these picks.
Have they re-signed Russ yet?
I think he's rostered on for next year. So he's not a free agent.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
I actually think Russell's an unrestricted free agent, so the Clippers will need to re-sign him.
Okay. Yeah. I don't mind that. I just don't know why the Spurs would do that.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I would be keeping what you've already got, and just look to who's their point guard at the moment?
Trey Jones.
He's young. Yeah, you're fine. Keep your Vassell and Johnson. They're probably going to be better role players around Victor anyway. Instead, you're going to have 2 first and second picks trying to figure out their own kind of way to play instead of just having people who have been there, done that. And now it's like, Victor, here, take the ball and go show us what you can do. I wouldn't do that if I'm the Spurs, but I can see what they're trying to do. But it just doesn't seem like the Spurs kind of thing to do. They're a lot more of a safer operation than I think a lot of other teams, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right, we'll get into questions of the week. Let's hear your one.
I think it was either Steph or Jeff Van Gundy posted something about how they can speed up the game. He reckons that if you foul, it wouldn't matter. You just take the ball out until the last 4 minutes of the game. I want to know what your thoughts on that would be, because I thought it was pretty stupid, to be honest. I can see what he's trying to say, but I just don't think it works.
Say it again. Re-say the question.
So he pretty much, I'd have to get it. I probably should have looked at it before, but at the end of the day, he's saying I want to speed up the game by saying there's no half time. So it's just like a normal timeout, I guess, which I think timeouts almost go quicker than half time sometimes. That's something they've got to change, but that's for another day. He wants there to be, so if you foul, there would be no free throws no matter what until the last 4 minutes. No bonus no matter what. No, nothing, even a shooting foul. You just take the ball out until the last 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Then it's free throws if you foul. What are your thoughts on it?
Last 4 minutes, as in not every quarter, just the exact last 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard. I don't know. It changes the whole game. Like
maybe he was saying last
like Trae Young, people like
Trae
Young, Harden, even Embiid, they would be really affected by that sort of play. If you're going in and trying for a foul, people are just going to foul hard. So I'm just not sure if that is a great idea at all. Free throws are a big part of the game, whether you like it or not, whether you think Trae Young plays bad or Embiid plays bad. It's a skill that they have, being able to draw the foul. And if your defenders aren't defending that properly, then that's on them, in my opinion. I really like Trae Young's game. I think Embiid's a great player as well, but it's just not right. And if you look, it's going to be a point if you add that in and you look back on the stats. It's just not going to be the same, because like back then they had free throws and you could add the shooting foul. So I don't think that's even a thing Adam Silver would ever consider. So I'd say I'm not a fan of that one.
I'll have to double check it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he meant just the last 4 minutes of the game. Yeah. It might not even been him. I just remember seeing it today. It was someone who commentates and he said something like that. So just be timeout for halftime, like your usual little break or between each quarter. And then, something about the last 4 minutes only go when you get to shoot free throws or whatever. Yeah, I didn't think it would work at all. But I think they've got to try to speed the game up somehow. Yeah. Geez, those timeouts are ridiculous.
The timeouts are ridiculous. It's
supposed to be a minute.
6 minutes every timeout.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll change that this offseason, I reckon.
Absolutely.
There's been a lot of complaints.
Yeah. We'll get into my question of the week. This is a Australian-based one. Um, can Tyrese Proctor, he's going into his second year at Duke, can he be better than Dyson and Giddy 5 years from now?
Nah, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, Giddy shocked me. He's probably the one player that I got completely wrong. I thought he would struggle a lot in the NBA, and he's done the complete opposite. He's thrived. So yeah, I'll put my hand up completely wrong there. And he's going to be a very, very solid player throughout his career, probable all-star, um, in the future. And I still think Dyson's a player who is kind of learned, like he seems like a big improver. Like each year I reckon he'll just get better and better and better. And he could be, yeah, a real good solid 3 and D kind of guard. Plus I reckon he'll add he'll add some kind of thing with his game where he's very athletic and can get to the rim. I just think he might just need to be a bit better at using his body. And I think that will come over the years. So I'd probably have Tyrese below them. I think his play style is a lot prettier than theirs. But there's a lot of people who can do what he kind of does, I think, in the NBA, where there's not many people who can play like Giddy. And I think Dyson is a bit of an X factor where I think, he could fit really nicely on a championship team and do his job. Where I think, Tyrese's potential at the moment is, huge. But I think there's a lot of people who can dribble well and shoot the ball and can pass it as a point guard, where I don't think there's many people who are 6'9" and have the vision like Giddy does and can, get his teammates involved a lot better than I think Tyrese would. And doesn't have any, fancy dribble moves, but it works, doesn't it? And then, yeah, Dyson's probably not someone who's like, anything like them that way. But tell you what, you wouldn't want to be going against him on defense. He just can sit and play all day long.
Yeah. So 5 years from now, what's your ranking 1 to 3?
I got Dyson on top from
Yeah.
Giddy and Tyrese. I was a big believer in him, and Giddy might surprise me again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got big opinions of Dyson Daniels.
Yeah. I'm gonna say Tyrese is gonna be the second best of the three. I think it's gonna be really hard to overtake Giddy, based on what he's done in his second year. I think he averaged 18, 8, and 7 or something ridiculous this year. And I think he's just got he was just drafted into the perfect situation. I was talking to Hesh about it. I just think he's had the fairy tale Cinderella route to the league. And obviously it's not a great route to take, and not many people have done it ever. But I just think the way he was put into the academy, and they kind of pathed him to make the NBL, and the NBL only just was accepting that, young stars, next stars program, and it only just happened when he was going through it.
Mm.
Then he kind of paved that path where Adelaide accepted him and made him starting point guard straight away. And then he had the Isaac Humphries, who was an MVP center on his team. I think he had a wing. I can't remember who was playing wing for them at the time. They had Sunday Deck as well, who was just two guards. So he had the perfect team around him at that exact time he was there, and he kind of played through that. And now he's on the Thunder, where he's got the MVP point guard. They had the second pick, and they took Chet. They've got a decent pick in this year's draft. I think they got 12. J-Dub's risen out of the occasion. So they're a team where in his second year have the best young core in the league, 10, 11 picks in the future 5 drafts, and they're on the brink of playoffs as a dark horse threat in the Western Conference. I just think everything's lining up for him perfectly. So,
yeah,
obviously he's a great player, and I think it's going to be really hard to outdo what he does. Dyson, I think he has one of the highest ceilings out of the three. Great defender. I think he's going to be a Matisse Thybulle with some offense. And I think when Pelicans kind of get their stuff together and Zion's back on the court healthy, Ingram's going to step up. They've got Valanciunas, CJ, and I think Dyson might start at the 2 for them. And I think that team is a really, really solid starting 5. They've got Herb and Trey off the bench, Alvarado off the bench. They're Larry Nance off the bench. They're looking really, really good. Jackson Hayes as well. So Dyson can be a really key defensive player for them. And I think He's going to be a great player on the Australian side as well. But Tyrese is different. I think his game out of the three really coincides with the NBA basketball court. He's fast in transition. March Madness, I thought, he has to really step up to the plate here because he's on the big stage. And I thought he was one of Duke's best players. I think he had a few 20-point games. His passing was what really surprised me because I thought he was a natural two guard, but he's definitely shown that he's going to play the one, but can definitely slide to the two. I think he's got the better shot of the three. I think he's got the better handles of the three.
Yep.
And I think he's probably the fastest of the three. I could be wrong on that one.
I reckon Dyson would be quicker.
Dyson, maybe he's quicker than him. Tyrese Proctor, I think, has the best NBA game ready out of the three. So I think once the court opens up for him a little bit and he gets some lob threats, I think he's going to be a real problem in the NBA. And I definitely see why teams would be high on him. Definitely good to add some firepower to the Australian side. We've got Giddy who can facilitate. We've got Dyson who can play D. We've got a team full of defenders. Jock's a decent lob threat, but we need the next Paddy Mills. We need a scorer. I think Tyrese can definitely be that guy. So I like Tyrese's chances, but I think it's going to be really hard to overdo what Giddy's doing at the moment.
Yeah, you could go either way. I think Tyrese will come in and be good from the start. He just seems like a guy who could come into the NBA and average 15. Yeah, just shooting and scoring. Like 15 and 5 or something. But I think, you're right in saying that Dyson's potential, I think, could be right up there. And obviously, Giddy, extremely hard to overtake with what he's done. I would not be shocked if he goes either way. Tyrese could be the best for all we know. I'm just trying to stick true and hope that I'm not completely wrong about Dyson. But he hasn't done anything that bad so far. I think he's just a learner.
Sure. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys for joining us. We are posting snippets on YouTube Shorts, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So make sure you guys go subscribe and follow us on all the platforms. And then we are posting every Friday, Fiery Fridays, on all podcast streaming platforms. So make sure you guys go follow us. We appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See you.